which is the story of orcas in captivity and how that was torture for them. There was that famous movie Free Willy.
Hi, everyone.
That was a
I'm
sick
Trish
whale. It
Triumph
died right
O'Sullivan,
after-
and I'm the proprietor of Downtown. A little bit
That's a
late
sick whale.
to talk with
Even the
James
poster
Dorsey.
for the
And
movie
James is the
Free Willy
author of
showed a
The
dude in Dorsey.
Lagoon.
That was a sick whale.
He wrote this book.
They were
And it's
torturing
pretty
that animal
cool.
to make a
Let's
movie.
see if I can get it in the frame. Here I am. So The Lagoon is a really awesome
I haven't
book
actually
Um,
seen
No, I
the
haven't seen
that
it.
we're going to let him
Online,
tell you
we should
about
take a look
more
at it.
than
It's
me
called
tell you
Blackfish.
about. But he's
There's a
had
worldwide
many
movement
years of experience with
Basically shut
this
down these
lagoon
theme
in
parks.
Baja,
And I
California.
was very involved in that right from the start.
It was. Is it not still a movie?
So
it's
we're
still
going to
going on,
actually
yeah.
listen to a conversation that's in
And,
progress at the moment.
Basically, the
Where
only
he's
country
talking
that's
to
still
a couple
actively
of
whaling
people
is Japan.
about who's whaling right
Norway
now.
is going to
So I'm
stop
going to
next
move
year.
it over to him,
Iceland stopped
and
this
we'll
year.
pick up this conversation
Um,
in progress.
Japan has such an ancient culture of whaling; they're not going to change recently. It's going to take generations.
Yeah.
And there's another movie you might be interested in called The Cove.
Yeah. Oh no, I can't go to
Right.
watch
That's
that.
because Japan's the only nation on earth that eats dolphin.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody else eats dolphin, and they kill them brutally. there.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
well, that's a companion movie to Blackfish. So. I cover all that in the book. There's chapters on all these different things, but the main focus here is about a mystical connection between the people of Baja and the gray whale that's been there for close to 10,000 years. Like I said, we know they were doing religious ceremonies in the mountains regarding these animals. We don't know what their connection was to them. Were they spirit beings? Were they just food sources? But these people went to a lot of trouble to put their images on caves high up in the mountains. 10,000 years ago, these were rather primitive people, so they had to work very hard to get up in those mountains and do all this stuff. It's significant. And these caves are all protected by UNESCO now. They're all World Heritage Sites. So it goes back. It goes back centuries.
I just think that's so cool that we've got like this amazing history in the quote New World. Right? I mean that's what really gets me. We're like, oh, it's the quote New World. Like, why would we have like all this stuff going on for thousands of years?
Yes,
Like you said, 10,000 years.
right. And this particular lagoon was discovered in 1830 something by a fellow named Jared Poole. If you ever heard of Charles Scammons? Scammons Lagoon is named for him.
Okay.
He was a San Francisco-based whaler. His brother was a whaler, Jared Poole. He discovered San Ignacio Lagoon sometime around 1850. He said there were tens of thousands of whales there. So within a year, Scammons was down there slaughtering these animals for food, for profit, for oil. That was 1850 to now. Now this is the premier whale watching spot on Earth. It has changed in that amount of time. Scammons had an epiphany later in life. He was so guilt-ridden from what he had done as a young whaler that he became an advocate against whaling. He wrote a best-selling book on the marine mammals of North America that was definitive until about 1977 when Dick Russell wrote a book called Eye of the Whale that replaced it. And today Scammons Lagoon is named for him because he became such an advocate for gray whales. So,
How about that?
yeah.
Good for him. I always like it when people come around.
Yeah. And whale watching today is a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So there's a fellow in the book who's a Mexican fisherman named Pachico Mayoral. He claims to be the first man to ever pet a whale. 1972,
Really?
there's a whole
Really?
chapter on Pachico. I knew him very well. And the whole story of how he first touched a whale and basically started whale watching. And his family still operates down there. He's passed on now. But yeah, his family runs the operation these days.
How do you
Interesting.
pet a whale? I mean, do you have to get out in a kayak or something?
No. We're in 20-foot open boats. They're called pangas. It's like a Boston whaler. We go out on the water, we cut our engines, the animals come to us. We're not allowed to approach them.
Oh, okay.
We just go out where we know they're in the general area, cut our engines and float, and the animals come to us to be petted.
the boat must be sufficiently large that the
Yeah.
whale next to
20
it
foot.
doesn't tip it over or
They
anything.
don't tip them over. They know where we are. They know their own limits.
Yeah.
They come right up. They rub on the boats. There's even a story in here about a big female who came up underneath us upside down, put us on her stomach,
Oh, really?
held us with her pectoral fins, and spun us around.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
when we're on the water, we're bathtub toys. for
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
They were there
yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
See,
Interesting.
because it's a
Wow.
nursery, these animals are building stamina to make the northbound
Oh,
migration.
oh.
So while they're there, mother's making them swim all day long,
Oh,
back and forth, building strength.
interesting.
When the babies get tired, which doesn't take long, mothers let them come to our boats to play. That's the reward. We're toys
That's
for
neat.
them. That's our purpose. There for them.
Yeah, wow. Interesting.
But that's the way it is.
In the work that you've done with whales, I'm sorry I missed the beginning part maybe of what you were talking about, but do you do anything writing up about the sounds they produce and how the significance of the sounds
Whale songs.
Yeah, in communicating with other whales?
Yeah. Well, but each whale communicates differently. The only whales that sing are humpback whales, and only the males sing.
But and the singing is actually a communication means,
Yes.
or
Yes, but all whales vocalize. It's just
Yeah.
we can't hear most of it.
yeah, but other whales understand something from
Oh, sure.
different.
A humpback can talk to a humpback 200 miles away. A blue whale can talk to a blue whale on the other side of the planet.
Really?
Yes, it's been proven by a researcher named John Kellicombitis, who has something called Cascadia Research, and he's a specialist in blue whales. He's studied them forever.
At the other side of the planet, you mean
Yeah.
the sound waves?
Ultra low frequency sound waves.
Jeez.
It travels that far.
Well, water is a great conductor. Yeah,
Yeah, I know, but that great. I
Yeah,
didn't know.
me either. Wow.
gray whales we can't hear them. They do vocalize.
Okay, so it's
That
only
is
the
very
humpback that
interesting.
can.
Yeah.
And a gray whale's ear is about the size of the nail on your pinky, right behind the eye. It's just a hole in the head. There's nothing else there.
Can I throw something in here? You just reminded me. In the closet of the home I grew up in, in the cupboard in the dining room, there was a thing I thought was a seashell. It was about as big as my fist, and it was a bone structure. And I just thought it was a seashell. And my sister said, "No, Elaine, it's not. Don't you remember? Dad said that it was an inner ear of a whale."
Cochlea.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's really quite lovely, but it does. You can kind of turn it over and you can kind of see.
I have one on my desk at home.
Do you? Aren't they?
I have a lot of whale bones in my backyard. I have ribs and dolphin skulls and compression discs and vertebrae. And you name it.
Scapula. Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So they just wash up?
Yes, in Mexico they do. I used to bring this stuff back whenever I go down there. Now you can't. Now you need export permits. So, museums and aquariums have realized this stuff is really valuable. So now you need permits to handle it and to transport it. You can't just pick up bones on the beach anymore.
Why? Yeah.
No, he's at 222.
Does ambergris come from a sperm? That comes from the sperm
Sperm
whale.
whales.
What is that does?
Ambergris.
Oh, and what is
they
that?
use it in
It's
perfumery.
a stomach secretion
Oh.
that
The AMBRERGRIS?
Yes, that's right.
I guess I've seen the word. I
Yeah.
don't
a
know
little
what it
ball that big, it's worth $50,000-$60,000.
is. What is it
Use
again?
it for perfume.
Yeah. they
What-
use it
what
for
is it
perfume.
made of?
The
It's
bile and
Bile.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's
interesting.
aromatic. It has a
Interesting.
sort of a deep resinous aroma, musky and animalic. So
Yeah.
it's
Kaya
prized.
Owen did a story last week about some people who found some just a little north of here on the beach.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
Well, sometimes it's just expelled by the whale.
Yeah.
And other times, I guess, whalers can just
Mhm.
extract it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
now there's this new technology about extracting carbon from the atmosphere. If you're familiar with that at all? Whales do that naturally, and people don't realize it. Before whaling, there was no problem with carbon in the atmosphere. Whales poop at the surface of the water. It slowly sinks down, but it's full of nutrients. And when a whale dives, it stirs all that up and brings it back up to the surface where photosynthesis lets the plankton feed on it. So every time a whale dives, it's recycling their poop and bringing these nutrients up to the
Oh,
surface. So it creates
interesting.
more plankton for them to eat on.
Yeah.
And that also, when it sinks to the bottom and stays there, it's taking carbon out of the atmosphere and burying it where it won't be there anymore.
Mhm.
So if we could stop whaling worldwide and populations return, we'd have clean air everywhere on the planet.
Interesting. Oh,
Wow. So
That's not going to happen though.
yeah, yeah.
just destroys so much of the ecosystem, and people don't know. I didn't know about that until you just told
Not
us.
many people do.
Yeah, but it's so
I mean,
wonderful.
up here, whale watching's popular, but you might see the back of a whale, you might see a fluke when they dive. That's about all you're going to see here. I mean, where I work in Mexico, the whale's right here. 40-ton, 45-foot wild animal is right here, with its mouth open, asking you to scratch its tongue or to stroke its baleen.
Wow.
And they bring their babies up to us. They'll put the baby on their back or they'll put it on a pectoral fin, and they want you to put their babies. They're showing off what they've done.
Oh my God.
And this doesn't happen anywhere but in this lagoon.
Reminds me of something I saw on the internet yesterday. Some gorilla in a zoo came over to the glass and was knocking on the glass, summoning a woman who had a
baby.
3-month-old baby or something like that.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you saw it too?
I think I saw the news.
Yeah,
feed.
yeah. And so I clicked on that. I don't normally, but I clicked on it. Sure enough, it shows this monkey of some type coming over and going, and then they bring the baby over to the glass, and the gorillas, or not gorilla, whatever it was, is looking at it, and it's what you said reminded me of that.
Well, last year there was a little child fell into the gorilla pit in the San Diego Zoo, and a silverback picked it up, and everybody was panicking.
And brought it to the.
No, he sat back down and he cradled the baby.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was
But
something
it
I saw.
also had a baby on its back, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they think because he had the baby on the back, made it more susceptible to being.
Well, they're not just going to attack you. People
Yeah.
Think animals.
think
are-
all
Incredible.
animals are going to attack you.
There was a similar thing about 10 years ago or more about a zoo in the Midwest somewhere, and a child, like a 2-year or 4-year-old or something, somehow got in or fell in or whatever, and it looked like lost consciousness. And this monkey comes over among all the monkeys, comes over and picks up the child, walks over to where the gatekeeper to the gate where the gatekeeper usually would come. And
Yes.
so what you said about the whale and the babies is
Now, how long does
interesting.
the whale
Hmm?
hold the baby?
Oh, I don't. How long do they hold it?
Do they keep it by their side?
Well, they nurse for about 8 months.
Okay.
The grays do. But back when they were whaling in these lagoons, back in the 1850s, 60s, 80s, they called that the golden years of whaling for some reason. They would harpoon the baby whale, and its cries would bring the mother close.
Yeah.
That's how
Of
they
course.
hunted back then. Then they could kill the mother.
Jeez.
Well, the mothers would fight with their tails. They can really use that tail like a hammer.
Weapon.
And they would shatter these little whaling dories, right?
Um,
So they were called devilfish because they fought back to protect their young.
Sure.
They called them devilfish. So
Yeah,
that's the press
right.
picked up on
Because
that
we're
and spread
just
that
defending
word.
ourselves, we call them. Yeah.
Until the 1950s, these animals were called devilfish.
gee.
When Pachico Mayoral petted that whale, that shattered that whole image.
Mm.
I mean,
The Chico, last name,
Mayoral, Mayyoral. He was a Mexican fisherman in the lagoon. And
Interesting.
yes,
Right.
but these animals were called devilfish for 150 years before we realized once we stopped killing them, they've always been friendly. They started coming to us right away as friends.
You know, it's interesting. It may that we have to at school often have to read Moby Dick, all about getting even with a whale that was just doing
Well,
what whales
if you
do.
ever heard of the whale ship Essex,
No.
okay, it was the only recorded attack on a ship by a whale until these modern orcas recently have been attacking sailboats off the coast of Portugal.
Mhm.
But about 1853, a whaling ship off the coast of Argentina was attacked by a sperm whale and sunk
Mm.
because they had harpooned another sperm whale.
Oh. Hmm.
Okay, the first mate was named Owen Chase, and he wrote a book about this because they spent 7 months in a life raft after their son.
Mhm.
They resorted to cannibalism before they got made their way back to England, where they were saved. But Owen Chase wrote this book called The Wreck of the Whale Ship Essex. It was a true story. It's still in print. Owen Chase's son was a friend of Herman Melville's son.
Oh, really?
Melville had only written for little pulp magazines
Yeah.
at that point.
Mhm.
Melville took Owen Chase's manuscript, turned it into Moby Dick, and could not get it published. Nobody would touch it in America. It was published in England.
Huh.
They would only publish 100 copies and nobody bought them. They shipped them all back to Melville. He died in obscurity.
Really?
Yeah. Moby Dick became a classic after he was long dead.
Yeah.
But it was the story of the whale ship Essex. And Ron Howard did a terrible
Interesting.
movie about this called In the Heart of the Sea, which
Hmm.
is supposed to be that story. It's Hollywood bull. The whale doesn't even look like a real whale. Still.
Did the rest of you have to read some of Moby Dick in high
Yes,
school?
yes, but I never succeeded.
Well,
Now,
we had to.
all
It
of
was
you,
so boring. So
what was your favorite
silly.
experience?
I
Revenge.
couldn't point out. Every time I'm on the water, it's
Like your top 5? It's
no,
some
really.
memories that
It
favorite.
is so. There's no way to describe what this is like until you're there with this animal who's 20 times your size
Mhm.
and it wants to be petted.
Jeez.
So I can't say.
That is
It's amazing, huh?
unbelievable. I can't.
Sometimes we have 5 or 6 adult whales pushing the boat around, trying to
Wow.
get up to be petted, pushing each other out of the way, pushing
Wow.
their babies out of the way so the mother can be petted.
Wow.
And it's all fun.
Yeah.
And this is common. This is what I expect to have happen every time I'm on the water down there. But you can't explain this to people until they go down there and experience it. There's no.
Wow.
This is the closest you can come to it until then.
They should replace having to read Moby Dick in school with.
Now, how large are their brains?
They're fairly large, but that doesn't really signify their intellect. I mean, an orca is the smartest creature in the ocean, smarter than a dog.
Mhm.
They have multiple dialects.
Huh.
There's many different orca species, and if they meet on the open ocean, they do not communicate with each other. They speak different languages. They won't even socialize with each other. They go in different directions. With their own species, they'll pod up 10, 20,000 strong.
Mhm.
Is that 10 to 20,000
Sometimes
strong?
there's
And
massive
do
gatherings.
they'll migrate together?
Well,
or-
orcas don't migrate.
oh.
They're found all over the world.
Oh, okay. So, but they remain in kind of intact
They'll come
groups.
together in megapods
Mhm.
periodically. Yeah, just like dolphins.
Hmm.
They're found all over the world. Are they even in Asia?
They're all over.
Really?
Orcas are found in every ocean of the world.
So in the South China Sea and
There's not so many there because of the pollution. I mean, the gray whale off the coast of Asia is extinct because of pollution. Just the same as the Atlantic gray whale is extinct from overwhaling.
right, but they used to be there.
Yes, now the only gray whales left on Earth are here on the western United States Rim of Fire.
In Western United States, what?
The Rim of Fire, it's
Oh,
called, from
Right.
Alaska
Oh,
to
yeah.
the tip of Baja.
Yeah.
And that's called the Pacific stock,
Hmm.
the
Mhm.
Pacific gray whale.
Hmm.
The only place to find them on Earth.
Hmm.
And they navigate by underwater geography, so they hug the coast, which
Oh,
has saved
mhm.
them from a lot of whalers.
Hmm. Yeah.
However, there was a lot of shore-based whaling started right here in Monterey. The last shore-based whaling station was in Monterey
Hopkins
and Moss
Marine or
Landing, and they
something?
ended at 1972. They were still killing whales from shore here.
Gee. Hmm. Hmm.
How do they? I don't really want to know this, but I'm curious. How do they kill whales from the shore? Harpoons?
Harpoons. They send out small boats with harpoons, and
Yeah, but that used to be a huge part of the Portuguese, for them to go out and kill whales to use all the.
most of the shore-based whalers on the west coast of California were from Portugal.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Now-
because we know they were whaling for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
This is kind of a gory, question, but when they use a harpoon to kill a whale, since, am I correct, so much of the whale's outer body is blubber or whatever the proper word is.
Yeah.
When they use a harpoon, that must Must they not have to use several in order to get to a significant
Well,
organ to kill them?
It's a slow death, right?
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
is it
well,
they
what
just-
they do is it's tethered to the boat, and they will put buckets. They used to use wooden barrels,
Mhm.
so the whale couldn't sound. Right? It's carrying all this.
Sound
air-filled-
means going down.
And they'd put multiple buckets on them, keep adding harpoons with ropes tied to these buckets,
So
so the
that would
whale
be-
couldn't die, and then eventually it would just die from loss of blood.
For multiple harpoons. I
Right.
mean, they were
But
not,
then,
it's not a fast death then, like you were
and
saying.
the harpooner was required to jump in the water and sew the whale's mouth shut. Otherwise, it's
Oh
going to fill with water and
God.
sink, and that
Oh.
happened a lot.
Jeez.
This is what happened up in Nia Bay when the Macaw people made an illegal whale kill a few years ago.
Where was this again?
Nia Bay, Washington. This was an indigenous whaling society up there, and that after a 80-year ban on whaling, they decided to kill whales again. And they made an illegal kill. It was an underage, undersized whale, and it sank. So the Coast Guard had to come in and send divers down to put a rope around it and bring it up so they could slaughter it. And then when they got it up, nobody knew how to cut up a whale because they hadn't done it in 80 years.
Yeah.
So it was a big debacle.
Yeah.
Have the female whales had any twins? Is that normal?
It has happened. It's very rare. I mean, this is just gray whales now. Other whales. Orcas usually have two calves. The first one's going to die because mother's passing off all the pollutants in her body to the first calf.
Really?
This one.
Yeah. That's why the orca population is steadily declining.
So that's probably been a recent thing. I mean, in the past, they might have had,
Well,
they,
20, 25 years.
yeah, so in the past, they would have delivered,
Some
they
of
would
the
have
most-
had two of them and they both likely survived.
Yeah. Some of the most polluted whales are belugas. They're full of toxic chemicals.
Mm.
Oh, so don't eat caviar.
That's right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Are you an oceanographer?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, you're very knowledgeable.
No, I just like animals. I've read that orcas are actually a type of dolphin or porpoise.
Well, it depends who you're talking to. Some people
Oh,
say
is
it's
there
the other
some
way
debate
around.
about that?
Some people say dolphins are the smallest whales.
Mm.
So it depends on who you're talking to.
Hmm.
Oh,
I wouldn't say they're one or the other.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's the smallest whale is a vaquita, which is in the Sea of Cortez. It's
and
about
they're
this big.
endangered.
If there's even one left
Yeah.
alive, we don't know. We haven't seen one in months now. But they're about a 2-foot long whale. I mean,
wow.
they're a real whale.
And they have this cute little face.
Yes. Yeah, they
Yeah.
look like they're smiling.
Yeah.
Gray whales always look like they're sad because their eyelid covers their eye and their mouths droop down, and so they always look like that. And people think they're just naturally sad. But, these are the friendliest animals in the ocean.
Besides these books here, do you also sell your other books on languages that are being lost?
Yes. Yeah.
Do they have them here?
I've just given 5 programs, one a month at the Monterey Library.
I know you said Monterey Library,
Yeah.
but here too?
I haven't done any more here yet.
But I mean, do they have them here? Does
They
she
don't
carry
have
them?
right here.
Oh, okay. Not online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my next and last show at the Monterey Library is going to be about this book.
Uh-huh. But
And
the,
then we'll start a whole new series about other stuff. After
Yeah.
that.
but the ones on, he was telling me, maybe you already mentioned that you've done traveling and done a sort of exploration of dying languages and something, or how would you say it?
I spent about 25 years going to remote tribal cultures and documenting vanishing civilizations with no written languages.
It's fascinating.
So I do that part of the year, and I do whales part of the year, simultaneous careers.
And you had the names of those books. I noticed
Yeah,
in
the
here. too.
trails.
Yeah, that's just fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds
And
really
then-
intriguing subject.
Well,
Kind of
I have
related.
copies of my previous books. If you want to get in touch with me, I can sell them to you
Yeah,
directly.
okay. Sounds good.
How do we get in touch with you?
You know, I didn't bring any cards.
Well, just look up
Do you have a
James
card or-
Dorsey.
I have paper.
He's on Instagram.
Oh, yeah,
Are you on Instagram?
I don't like social media.
I had to forget something, and I usually forget to bring my business cards. So.
But it's on Amazon anyway, or?
Any bookseller.
Yeah, okay. Do you know if any in Monterey have them? I live over there. River House Books?
Well,
or?
I doubt they have a physical inventory. You can buy it online anytime, and they'll
Yeah.
ship it that day.
Yeah, okay.
Amazon.
Oh,
And my website is just jamesdorsey.com.
Okay. And how can we help? How can we help make things better for marine animals?
Write to your politicians.
Politicians are just like totally
There's not much else you can do.
really
You
money.
can write to the International Whaling Commission.
does it help to be involved in things like the
You can
aquarium?
get in touch with UNESCO.
But the organizations like the aquariums, do they have something, foundations that?
Nothing that I know of.
Oh, okay.
Not as far as preservation
Yeah.
goes. I mean, the aquarium here does research, but
Yeah,
I don't know how involved they are with preservation.
yeah. Or Moss Landing Marine.
No, you want to go to Mbaria, it's the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute.
Oh, yeah.
So could we convince you to do a little reading for us?
Oh, thank
Sure.
you.
I did actually ask you already. You signed it. I mean, you gave me the names of your books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would love to have a little reading of your
Well,
book,
I-
because I haven't had a chance to read it.
I marked some excerpts that I thought would be interesting. This one is about my first day on the water, the first time I encountered a gray whale in this lagoon. Okay. Oh, we do have an audience. An immense gray back parted the water, rising like an island being born, while the mist from the whales below coated us like dew. She logged on top, then turned toward our ponga, taking our measure. My fists were clenched in anticipation. This was a massive wild animal, an adult Pacific gray whale, a devilfish in its natural domain. Our only defense against such a giant was blind faith. I thought of the old stories, and it came to me that one of my own ancestors might have plunged a harpoon into one of hers. I looked back at Maldo, hand on the tiller like the old sea dog he was. He was smiling, whispering to the whale in a voice meant only for her, using his magic to bring her to us. This wasn't fear, but love. The great back began to move in our direction, leaving a spreading wake on the surface. The whale sounded gradually beneath the surface where gray and white camouflage could be tracked. Her flukes passed below us, revealing a missing piece the size of a white shark bite. Her tail was twice as wide as I am tall, but its movement was barely perceptible. When the waters parted and her massive head was next to us, she slowly rode from side to side, giving us a thorough look. She was long as two of our boats and outweighed us by 40 tons. Her white barnacle-encrusted rostrum betrayed her age as perhaps close to 70, a fairly long lifespan for a creature so pursued by predators. She bore a lifetime of scars, mostly from shark attacks, and half a dozen prop strikes that she could not have felt because of her 8-inch armor of blubber. She hugged the boat like an old friend, diving below to rub her back on our keel, and as she rocked us back and forth, when she came up, I looked deep into her blowhole, feeling her inner heat. She rolled in her side, and I caught my reflection in her iris. It was black, within a deep brown eye the size of my fist, and luminescent with eyelashes any model would kill for. She did not blink, but held my gaze, and I imagined her thoughts, willing me to understand. It wasn't the vacant look of a cow or a pig that required no presence, but an intelligent look inquiring about the strange creature in her domain. I pressed my hand against her flank, finding it smooth and pliable like firm rubber, while she returned the pressure, pushing against me. She came to each of us in turn, her mouth barely open, revealing aging yellow baleen. Then she submerged beneath, and as she turned upside down below us, the ponga began to turn in a slow circle. She was balancing us on her stomach, holding us in place with her pectoral fins, and Maldo laughed as she played with us like a giant bathtub toy. When she had enough, she disappeared as easily as her blow in the breeze and the thermal upon the water. How long she stayed, I cannot recall, but it wasn't long enough.
Wow, that's just like so powerful.
Yeah.
I have a short one if you're interested
Please.
about the first whale touch. This is about Pacheco. Oh, I thought.
Oh.
Sounds like I'm screaming with my.
You're not, speak up.
Okay. In February of 1972, 24 years before my first contact with a gray whale, a Mexican fisherman named Jose Francisco Pacheco Mayoral was fishing for grouper with his partner Santos Perez in a 20-foot panga in San Ignacio Lagoon. It's a fiberglass round-bottom boat, the workhorse of Baja on a seaworthy craft. The fishermen of the lagoon were used to the whales, but they kept their distance because they feared them as lethal devilfish. Pacheco loved to tell this story, and I had the pleasure of hearing it directly from him. A large female approached his boat and began to rub on its keel. Pacheco and Santos, fearing the worst, hunkered down on the floor of the panga. When the whale would not leave, Pacheco cautiously peered over the side of the boat and found himself looking directly into the eye of an adult bay whale,
Gee.
jet black with a brown iris and lashes as long as an elephant's. Gathering his courage, he reached over the side and touched the creature. The skin was slick and smooth. When the whale pressed against his hand, he jumped, startled by the animal's reaction to his presence. Pacheco talked Santos into touching the whale, but his hand was shaking so badly from fear he never made contact. They both claimed the whale was heavily scarred from prop strikes, and in future seasons, this allowed them to recognize the same whale many times. That day, the whale stayed with him for a half hour. That night, Pacheco related the story to a skeptical wife and friends who thought him mad from the sun or perhaps too much to drink. And other fishermen began to touch. Over the next few days, other fishermen ventured out and began to touch the devilfish, and all reported the same result. This was world-shaking news for people who had shared the water for decades with an animal they feared. Had they always been friendly? Did we only need to reach out and touch them? Soon, wives, children, and friends were petting the devilfish. As they came to recognize individual whales, they began to assign them names. Something ethereal was taking form. That first touch was soon almost as famous as God reaching to Adam on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, as its effect rippled through the world. Posters and postcards proliferated, illustrating the touch as it came to be known. The same year, the Mexican government created a reserve and refuge area for migratory birds and wildlife in San Ignacio Lagoon. The United Nations called for a ban on worldwide commercial whaling. U.S. Congress instituted the Marine Mammal Protection Act. In the following year, Congress passed the Endangered Species Act, which included the gray whale. And it all started with an interspecies touch.
Initiated by the whale.
And what year was that?
1972.
So
You have it
51
left
years
until
ago.
you put your hand into a gray whale's mouth and scratch his tongue. It's beautiful.
Did you have the opportunity?
Oh, yeah.
to do
Oh,
that?
yeah. I've been down several times.
Irene's been with me most of the time now.
I didn't
And
know.
on the other excursions too,
Yeah.
all over the world.
That's
I just
fantastic.
don't write. I just criticize him.
Golly, thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you guys are interested.
Yeah.
Are we closing up?
Do we need a round of applause?
Yeah.
You do another reading for us.
You have another short one?
Sure, I can find one.
Let's do one more and then we'll we're not closing up, but
when you
Let's see what I
my
have
phone
here.
is answering.
oh, I love that.
That's scary.
It's a little scary.
May I take one of these up to the counter? I'm gonna
Yes,
have
absolutely.
to go. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, this is, do
Thank you. Thank you so much.
you want me to sign that?
Oh, of course. Yes, my goodness, yes. I looked at something where it was signed. Maybe it was
Well,
this one.
I pre-signed my name, but I'll personalize it.
Oh, okay.
This is to
Elaine, E-L-A-I-N-E.
A.L.
E-L-A-I-N-E. Marjorie Morningstar.
Oh
My
my
goodness.
goodness.
Oh, I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah. See what else? This must be this is really a wonderland here. Do you have people clamoring to work for you?
We actually do.
I
And
believe
believe
it.
it or not, it's young people. Young people love to read.
Yeah, I
And this is
believe
this
it.
is the big revelation for me opening a bookstore in 2019 is the majority of our customers are
Thank you so
teens
much.
and 20 somethings.
That's
That's
very
great.
promising.
Isn't it promising?
Yes.
It's like it's a very like uplifting,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
It's hopeful.
It's very hopeful.
Yeah, but I mean,
Just
the way
like
you
the
set it
Lagoon is
all up.
hopeful because we're like, okay, we can do things.
Yes.
There's a lot we can do. You know,
Yeah. And you're open 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
we're right now we're open 6 days a week. We're open every day from 12 to 7,
Oh,
and we're closed on Tuesdays.
that's a good day to
So
close.
every day except Tuesday.
Yeah. At 12 to 7, that's good here to stay open.
Come after work.
Yeah,
Or
we don't
after
have
school.
enough for people that are coming in the morning to be open early.
Of
So
course.
Right,
we just
yeah.
noticed that like as far as foot traffic goes, it's like after 12 noon. So
Yeah,
I will stay open later when
Yeah.
people with jobs actually can come in.
Yeah, that's what I believe that.
It's nice listening to your questions too.
Oh, nice to meet you, Elaine.
Thanks for coming.
We're gonna see Elaine again because she's gonna come do a book event, an author event with us too.
Wow. Could you
So if you're
Certainly.
ready-
photograph mine, please? Make it out to Daphne.
DAPH?
Yes, the proper way. I know you get all kinds of spellings these days.
I always ask people
I know.
because
Yeah.
people spell their names so many ways.
I know. It's like all over the place.
I think
Thank you so much. Could you date it, please? At least,
Oh.
yeah.
Today
That'd be
is
great.
the
I have no idea. What's the date? 26.
26.
Yeah. Thank you so much, James.
You're very welcome.
You know, some years ago, I went to a underwater world thing in Singapore, and I petted a pink dolphin and had a photograph taken. I did not realize at that time that that was not a good thing to do, and that was a bad thing for that place to keep dolphins in captivity.
Yeah.
And later, this was in Singapore, and later I actually wrote to, I can't remember where I wrote, but I wrote to the organization. I said, you know, you should set the dolphins free, because there was a movement to release these dolphins back into the sea. They were from Thailand. They were captured in Thailand and brought to Singapore. And I don't think it was very successful, the you know, what happened. I don't know if the dolphins are still there. But it's true that while gray whales might welcome human touch, same is not true of dolphins, right? They don't like being petted, like especially on the head.
Not necessarily. They will sometimes approach divers,
Yes, they do
and they have
that.
come to the aid of many divers.
Okay.
And I actually have videos of a line of dolphin who set themselves up in front of a diver who is threatened by a shark.
Oh wow.
They form a line in front of it, and they all sent out their echolocation pulse at the same moment.
Oh,
And the shark was repulsed by like it had been hit.
okay.
And they will do that.
Why?
Sharks will fear more than one dolphin. If there are 2 or 3 dolphins, the sharks are going to get out of it.
I see. Because of the echolocation.
Yeah,
ability.
they'll go after the shark.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, dolphins are highly intelligent, friendly. They will approach boats. They will approach people in
Yes,
the
they
water,
will.
but maybe they don't want to be petted. or at least petted in captivity.
I agree.
Yeah. So.
Years ago, before I had any enlightenment about this, I went to a place in Mexico where I swam with a dolphin. And it was fun at the moment, but I hated myself after I did it. And I learned the
You
lesson.
didn't know, yeah. Well, thank you so much, James.
Thank you both for coming.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. I was so glad we came, and thank you for your work.
Yeah, this looked really interesting, but
Uh,
even more interesting than I had hoped for. So thank you.
And
Yes,
it's such
just
a useful
fascinating.
thing, it's useful information and knowledge you're disseminating. So good luck with the
Thank you
more
very
books
much.
and your work.
Wait a second. I need to say goodnight. Excuse me for 1 second. So everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. And this will be available on our YouTube channel and on, oh yeah, we'll hold it up in a few different places. Here we go. Wait. There we go. Back over that way. I'm always like kind of backwards with holding up books and stuff. So I'm Trish Triumpho Sullivan from Downtown Book and Sound. We want to thank James Michael Dorsey, author of The Lagoon, for joining us tonight and sharing his experiences, which are pretty fantastic. Anyone who's watching this tonight or later on is welcome to private message or email us at downtownbookandsound@gmail.com. And we're happy to send you a free signed book plate from the author, no matter where you bought your book from. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And a big round of applause for James Michael Dorsey, author of The Lagoon. And we're going to sign off now and end this broadcast.